All right. Well, thank you so much for sitting down and having a couple of questions. To start, you described writing as a passion that you've had since childhood. What do you remember about those early stories, and how did those beginnings shape your approach to storytelling today?
I remember often starting with the sentence, "This is a true story," and then totally lying and just making up some nonsense that wasn't true at all, including Michael Jackson coming to my birthday party, but it was probably a good thing he didn't. But obviously creativity starting early. My mum was a teacher and she encouraged me and my brothers to do creative, activities. And I remember writing stories and poems when I was really, really little. And by the time I was a teenager, I was trying to write longer pieces. When I was 18, on the eve of the millennium, everyone was sick and I stayed at home and I started writing my first book. And it was dreadful. It's under my cupboard in my childhood bedroom. But I never stopped writing after that. I wrote book after book after book for children for a long time. So I finally transitioned to murder mysteries about 5 years ago. And that's where my career has come from.
That's great. Well, you've written across a variety of genres. So what inspired your transition to crime fiction? And what did you find the most challenging or refreshing about making that leap?
I transitioned for money. But I have always loved murder mysteries, so it was an easy thing. Somebody contacted me who was doing really, really well with murder mysteries. I had tried the traditional publishing route for a long time with children's books. And I'd had great feedback on my books, but it just hadn't taken off as a career. And so when I saw the opportunity to self-publish a murder mystery novel, I really went for it. I'd already started writing one a few years earlier and never finished it. So I just went back to it, finished it, put it online. And that was a very slow start for the first couple of months. But then the second year, it just started taking off. Then I found the right niche genre, which was historical murder mysteries. And that went like 10 times as successful. And it's not stopped since then. It's just grown and grown.
That's great. Well, in your debut adult mystery, you introduced a character named Izzy Palmer as a detective. What drew you to create this character, and how did you approach crafting a fresh voice in the crowded mystery genre?
Yeah, I mean, it was about voice. That's what people often talk about with my books, like having a unique voice, whether they're the successful ones, which are the historical, or the Izzy Palmers, which are not written to a specific audience, so they never quite took off. But it was just finding quirky characters. I love those quirky characters. So in that series, it's a young woman. And in my main historical series, it's a 16-year-old boy. And so they're quite different characters, but they have that unique worldview. And that's what's always really driven my writing, the voice and the sort of unique setting and background to each character.
Absolutely. Well, coming from a crime fiction family, what is there a particular book, author, or family memory that made you fall in love with mysteries? And how do those influences show up in your writing today?
Yeah, so like everyone in my family has always read mysteries. My dad would... My dad had Alzheimer's in later part of his life, and he'd still always carry a book around with him, and it would always be a mystery. And he's like sort of have it rolled up in his pocket, shoved in his pocket. And so, yeah, definitely, my brothers, my mom, and my dad, they all influenced me in that. But I think even more so is that I come from a family of storytellers. So my mum, if she was here, would have got up on that stage somehow. She doesn't know anything about publishing. She'd never written a book. She'd be up there talking.
She'd figure it out.
Yeah, because she's just a storyteller. And so that's what drove everything, I think.
Oh, that's great. Well, you've studied both literature and creative writing academically. How do you think formal education in writing helped or hindered your creative process? And what advice would you give writers weighing the value of such a program?
Yeah, it's a question I get asked a lot, and it's an interesting one because I did a master's in creative writing, having completed a degree in English literature. And I can't say that you have to do that to write a book or to be successful. And I'm sure lots of the people here today in the conference haven't followed that route. But if there's one thing that really, really taught me was that you have to listen to other people. You can't always assume you're right. You have to find compromise in your writing, and you have to listen to feedback. So I think that really helped me when it came to then using ARC teams, big groups of people who give me feedback on my books. I changed my books as a result of that. But it's not necessary, but it can help. That's simple answer.
That's great. Well, your writing and journey also includes a long period focused on children's books and young adult literature. What lessons did you take from writing for younger readers, and now that inform you for your adult fiction?
So yeah, I finished my master's and I decided that the genre that would make me famous and rich was kids' books. What I didn't realize was that it's really, really difficult to get into them. But I spent those 10 years writing those books that still aren't published. But what did it give me? It gave me the chance to learn my crafts, but it also gave me a sense of the commercial. And kids' books, they can't drag. They can't have long scenes of exposition which aren't, essential to the plot. They can't be full of description. They have to be really focused on moving the plot along. So I think it gave me a commercial sensibility, which is really useful in mystery or any genre.
Absolutely. Well, as someone with Welsh, Irish, and English roots, living in Spain with a multilingual family, how do these rich cultural influences affect your characters' dialogue or storytelling style?
I think it made me aware of culture and national culture. So, my wife's French and we live here in Spain. And my books they appeal to people who want something very English. So the historical ones particularly. The main character of my historical novel series is a lord, an English lord, and his grandson. And a large proportion of my audience are in America and they love that Englishness. So, and now I'm just moving the series over to Europe. So they're going to travel around Europe and I'm going to use all my knowledge of Europe, which is going to be very useful. And I include a lot of food. I include a lot of cultural elements in the books. So it definitely feeds into them.
It's very exciting. I'd love to hear just more about your approach to writing a series. How do you balance developing a central character while keeping each mystery fresh and engaging, really there for the reader?
That's a big part of the series. I was very lucky to chance upon the idea, probably because of my kids' books, of having a 16-year-old narrator for my historical series, which is my most successful, the Lord Edgington Investigates books. So in the first scene, the first book, the detective has just turned 75. His grandson is 16. So you have this very naive view of the world, and he is slowly changing. So I'm just about to release the 16th book, which is the first one that's set in Europe. And he's now 4 years older, and that's happened in real time. So I released the first one 4 years ago, and now he's just turned 20. And so he's developed. So I haven't had complicated plot arcs. I haven't had anything that you couldn't jump in book 9 and not understand basically what's happening. And it's the same with the new series, essentially. It doesn't matter if you've read the first 15, that what's nice is you're seeing this young man develop. He's becoming a better detective. He's becoming less naive. And that has been a really, really helpful way of keeping people's attention, keeping my readers' attention, whilst still being able to attract new readers. So that's been really helpful.
Well, kind of a reflective question, but looking back at your journey from teenage writer to published mystery author, what's the biggest thing you've learned about persistence, patience, and the writing process as a whole?
Yeah, you have to keep going. Yeah. So as I said, I probably wrote 10 kids' books, and in all that time, I made, I think, $245 for some reason. There was a guy who contacted me about one of the books about an American producer who made some, low budget films, but proper films. One was Zac Efron, and he wanted me to make this, script for the book, and I wrote it, and that's all the money I made in 10 years. Okay, in the 10 years since, or in the 5 years since, I've made $1 million. And if I hadn't done that, if I hadn't persisted, if I hadn't kept going, I would have never have broken out of my previous low-paying job as an English teacher in Spain. So yeah, persistence is everything. You need to learn. I mean, there are people who write the first book they write is fantastic, and that's great, or they have help and they improve it. But I wrote on my own for 10 years, and I got better and better. So yeah.
That's great advice. Well, that's fantastic. Just kind of would love to overall also hear just about your experience at GPS 2025 as a whole and what you think about organizing events like these where top authors like yourself share their strategies with people that might be newer aspiring authors or just people looking to learn.
So this is my second time here. I've been to quite a few conferences around Europe, but this is the second one I've been at, and I've spoken each time. And it is definitely the best conference I've been to because you have such close contact with big name authors, with people who have key skills that you might not have picked up. I felt pretty set in my ways until yesterday morning. I felt, I know what I'm doing. Everything's going along fine. I don't really need to change. I've had 20 ideas I want to put into practice over the last 2 days. And I'm surprised myself. It is such a good conference. I'm going to another one, a big one in London in the summer. But yeah, they're essential. They just motivate you so much. Almost wish I wasn't here so I can go home and keep writing, and keep marketing. And honestly, I'm surprised myself how much more motivated I am. right now.
It's great. Well, thank you for your time. I hope you keep enjoying your time for the rest of the event for today. But it was great to chat with you for a little bit and answer any questions.
Thanks very much. Cheers.